Okay, so in today's video, I'll be looking at Gaussian elimination method. Now, find the value of x, y, z if this is given as this. Now, the first thing you should note before using this method is that this question is a simultaneous linear equation question with three variables and three, that's unknown variables relatively, and three equations. So, after knowing this, let's see how I'm going to solve this question in a bit. Now, Gaussian elimination method is of the form A, B. What do we mean? A represents what? The matrix, and then B represents what? The solutions. So if A represents the matrix and B represents solutions, what does it look like? It looks like this 3 minus 1 minus 2. I'm taking the coefficients of each of these variables, x, y, z, and then I have what? 4, 1, minus 5. Now, what is my B? My B is what? 3, 4, 7. To solve this question using Gaussian elimination method is to reduce this to 0, this to 1. Then you continue solution from there. So that's as though reducing to what? Row echelon form. So this is my row 1, this is my row 2, this is my row 3. Now to convert this to 0, how will I do? How will I convert to 0? One, you can either say this minus 3 times this, or this minus 4 times this. It becomes 0. So let's use the simplest one, this minus 3 times this. Now the idea here is as though we're trying to eliminate under substitution, under simultaneous equation normally. So, but it's called row echelon form or method. Why? Because I'm dealing with different rows in the question. So since I want to convert 1 to 0 in row 2, this is row 1, row 2, row 3, it means row 2 is the same thing as what? Row 1 minus 3, row 2. And that is what? So it means row 1 remains the same thing. Row 3 remains the same thing. 4, 1 minus 5. My B, row 1 remains the same thing. Row 3 also remains what? The same thing. So, because this conditional root here is going to affect everything along that row that I'm talking about. So, row 1 minus 3 row 2 means 3 minus 3 times 1. So, let me just write that here. 3 minus 3 times 1, that's what? 0. Then I have what? Minus 1 minus what? 3 times what? Minus 3. So, because that's this minus 3 times this. So, that's minus 1 plus 9. And that's what? That's 8. Okay, so that's 8. Finally, I have minus 2 minus 3 times this. Minus 2 minus 3 times what? 4. So that's minus 2 minus 12. That's minus what? Minus 14. Finally, 3 minus 3 times 4. 3 minus what? 3 times 4. So that's 3 minus 12. That's what? Minus 9. So that is the expression for row 2 now. Now after changing this on to 0, let's say I can change this on to 0. Change this on to 0. Change this on to 1, 1, 1. Okay, to change this on to 0, since I still have my row 1 as 3, and my row 3 is still 4, I can say multiply this by 4, multiply this one by 3, then subtract. So that is row 3 becomes what? 4 row 1 minus 3 row what? 3. And that's what? This remains the same. This remains the same. Now the last one that becomes what? 4 times 3, that's 12. 12 minus 3 times 4, that's 12. So that's 12 minus 12, that's what? 0. So this is 0. For this case, now becomes what? 4 times this, 4 times minus 1, minus 3 times what? 1. So that's what? 4 minus 4 minus 3. So that's minus 7. For this also, that becomes what? 4 times what? Minus 2. Minus 3 times what? Minus 5. So that's minus 8 plus 15. And that's what? 7. Finally, 4 times 3 is what? 12. Minus 21. That's minus what? Minus 8. Now if this gives me minus 8, let's now continue. To convert this one to 0, it's either by saying 7 times this, or this minus 7 times this. So what am I subtracting? Because this is negative. Minus minus is plus. Plus 7 minus 7 is what? 0. So that's what I'm subtracting. So I can say row 3 is the same thing as what? 7 row 1 plus what? I mean minus in this case, Jerry. 7 row 1 minus what? Row 3. So how does it now become? It means row 1 remains the same thing. Row 2 remains the same thing. Now row 3 now becomes what? This is 7 times this. 7 row 1 minus row 3. So that's 7 times this, that's 21 minus 0. Okay, we see that gave us 21. And this is supposed to be 0 because of the method I plan using. So what does it now mean? It means I should either convert this one to 1 first, this to 1 first, this to 1 also first before continue my solution. So it will not affect it. What I'll just do is what? Convert this to 1. If I convert this to 1, I'll use this against this. So I can get this as 0. That's the best way I can do. That's the best condition I can use for now. So before coming to this one, if I might even come to this same condition, let me convert this to 1 first so that this solution can be easier. So I'll just use 2 and 3 then to work. Okay, so eliminating this condition that I used earlier or last and changing it to 0 to 1, I mean, is by saying what? Divide row 2 by what? By 8 to change it on to 1. As simple as that. So it means row 2 is the same thing as what? 1 over 8 what? Row 2 to change it to what? To change it to 1. So row 1 remains the same, row 3 remains the same. Let me write those ones down first. Okay, so now for row 2 now, 1 over 8 row 2 becomes what? 1 over 8 times 0. You can see this one still remains 0, and that's 0. So let me write it up here. Then 1 over 8 times 8 is what? 1. Then finally, or almost the last, minus 14 over 8 is what? Minus 14 over 8, which is minus 7 over what? Over 4. So just to confirm, minus 14 over 8, 2 here is 4, 2 here is 7. Okay. And finally, minus 9 over 8 is what? Minus 9 over 8. Now take note, fraction is also acceptable. If you in any case got fraction before you finished or while you just finished, you are still on track as far as the condition is tallying with the process of solution. So now if this is 1, I can now say row 7 row 2 minus or plus row 3 will give me 0 for this case. So it means row 3 is the same thing as what? 7 row 2 plus what? Row 3, or row 3 plus 7 row 2, whichever. So this comes here, this comes next. Okay, so how does that now become? That now becomes what? This remains the same, minus 1 minus 2, 0, 1, minus 7 over 4. I have 3 minus 9 over 8. And then what do I have here? This now becomes what? 0. Why does it become 0? Let's just confirm. Okay, so since it's 7 row 2, that becomes 7 times this. That's 0 plus 0. So that's 0. 7 times, okay, let me do this. 7 times 1, 7 plus minus 7. That's 0. 7 times this, that's minus 49 over 4 plus what? Plus 7. So that becomes minus 49 plus 28 over 4. And that becomes minus 21 over 4. Nothing can go. So this becomes minus 21 over 4. Finally, 7 times this plus this. 7 times this is what? Minus 63 over 8 plus minus 8. That's like minus 8 over 1. So that's minus 63 minus 64 over what? Over 8. And that's minus what? 127 over what? Over 8. If you solve very well. So this is minus 127 over what? 8. Okay, I forgot to mention, this question was set from my head actually. So as we're getting fraction, that can be the answer, or that should be the answer, or that will be the answer, because I actually set from my head. Okay, so let's just continue then. What do I now have? Now from here, convert this to 1, convert this to 1, and then let's conclude. So to convert to 1 is to say for row 1 is the same thing as what? 1 over 3 row 1, and row 3 is the same thing as saying what? 4 minus 4 over 21 row 3. Why is this minus 4? Minus to change it to positive. 4 over 21, that's the inverse of this, to change it to 1, and then I believe we have an answer. So in this case, you can say I put 2 conditions down. It's also acceptable. We can put 3 conditions down. Just make sure that you are following up while solving, so you reduce space also. So this is 1. This is minus 1 over 3. This is minus 2 over 3. This is what? This is 1. Because 3 over 3 is what? 1. This is not changing. Minus 9 over 8. This is 0, because anything that is 0 is 0. This is 0. This is what? Plus 1. And this is what? Minus 127 over 8 times what? That's this times this, times minus 4 over 21 over 21. 127 over 42. So possibly 21 can go in 127. I don't know. Just confirm that at the end. Now from here, let's now rearrange our question back. It now means x minus 1 over 3y minus 2 over 3z is equals to what? 1. It means this is 0x relatively. I have y minus what? 7 over 4z is equals to what? Minus 9 over 8. And finally, I have 0x, 0y. I have my z to be equals to what? 127 over what? 42. So, as you've gotten your z as this, it means you should just substitute it into this equation. This is now equation 3, equation 2, equation 1. Substitute it into equation 2 to get your y, into equation 1 to get your what? Your x, and you're good to go.